Good evening, folks. Derek Clark from the Rangers Review here in the bills of the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium in the press room here following Rangers' latest Champions League defeat, losing by 3-0 this evening in Naples. So I'm here just to give my reaction, and feel free to post your comments too, folks, and we'll get to as many as possible. Rangers losing 2 goals in quick succession in the first half. The first coming from Simeone on 11 minutes, and then he followed suit 5 minutes later with the second of the evening. And yeah, it looked from that point on as if it could get pretty ugly for Rangers. Craig Watson says jinx again. Listen, I take no responsibility for Rangers' result here this evening. They're always going to be up against it. Of course they were. And it was a pretty sobering experience, you have to say. Napoli, in the end, running out 3-0 winners. They took the foot off the gas in the second half, there's no doubt about it. Eventually getting their third goal, courtesy of Leo Ostigard from a corner kick, another set piece. So it's certainly something that Rangers have struggled to deal with, especially this season. There's no doubt about it. Lots of comments coming in. I'll get to as many as possible, folks. The team, let us know what you thought of the team that lined up tonight. Who were the positives from that side? Ridvan Yilmaz, of course, being preferred to Borna Barisic at left back. I felt going forward, he certainly offered Rangers something. Defensively, he was having a torrid time up against Politano, but he is a top-class player, there's no doubt about that. But, of course, big talking point for Rangers is Alfredo Morelos' chance when Ridvan flashes the ball across goal, and Morelos has to score, doesn't he? It's an absolute tap-in. He really has to do better from there. Let's get to some of the comments. Alan Kelly says, poor performance. Listen, Rangers are out of form just now. They're struggling at the moment. I think what the supporters deserve tonight is a battling performance, and I think after 16 minutes we all feared another Liverpool-style collapse. But they managed to weather the storm, if you like, that, and coupled with Napoli not taking their chances. They cannoned off the crossbar, of course, and they had a couple of shots. McGregor made a number of saves as well to keep the score down. But I think they had gears to go into it if they really had to. And remember as well, Luciano Spalletti rested a few of his star men, which is fortunately for Rangers, they weren't on display this evening. But they've got a class side in Napoli, a great squad, and I think one of the dark horses for this competition, flying high, of course, in Serie A and also in the Champions League. So they're going to take a real good side to stop them in their tracks. Hi Aldo, getting in touch this evening. He says he was at work. How bad were we? Well, I think before the game, I think he'd have taken a 3-0 defeat and headed back to Glasgow. But performance-wise, I think it improved in the second half. Rangers offered more in an attacking sense. He brought Scott Wright came off at half-time. Didn't offer a great deal, Scott Wright, and I think unsurprisingly removed at the breaks. Fashion Sakala offered a bit more attacking intent in the second half, but listen, Rangers, there's a golfing class tonight up against Napoli, so it was always going to be a tough ask. But they had chances that second half, as I mentioned. Alfredo Morelos has to score. Antonio Cholak had a header he should have done better with. Who else? Malik Tillman, of course, in the first half, where he managed to show a great feat to carve open an opportunity. I think his shot came off of Kim, the Napoli defender. As James Perry says, poor first half, better second half. I think that's a fair summation of the night's work. Didn't know this. Derek Guthrie points out Napoli ran 4 kilometres more than Rangers tonight. Surely running a lot is easy, but I think you mean to say there, Derek. But yep, it sits there in black and white. I think there's a fair argument to be had at the moment that the Rangers players, the work rate and the distance that they're covering isn't where it should be. I think that's fair comment at this moment in time. So yeah, that's a startling statistic. There we go. Let's see what else we've got here. Jamie Waddle says Yilmaz has to stay. We could also play Borna against Aberdeen. Yilmaz compliments Kent. Listen, I thought Yilmaz did pretty well. I've got to say I was quite pleased to see him in the starting lineup tonight. I thought he was always willing to get forward whenever the chance appeared. There was one incident in the first half, incidentally, when he broke the lines, played the ball to James Sands, and the American played the ball back the way, and Yilmaz looked really frustrated with that, and he was frustrated on a number of occasions. But listen, he was one of the players I think that get pass marks tonight. Jamie Brown's good friend of the show says, let's not be kiddie, they took their foot off the gas. Of course they did. I think they had gears to go up if they wanted to. As I mentioned earlier on, the fact that they left a number of key players out was pretty good as far as Rangers are concerned. They'll go some in this competition, I think, in Serie A as well, which is they've not won it for so long. That's what they dream of winning, of course. But I think in the Champions League as well, they can certainly go quite deep in the competition. This is an interesting one from Gregor Leishman. I'd play Yilmaz in Kent's position and Borna at left back. Now, this is something I've brought up, I think, a few weeks ago. Listen, Frank Kent's so out of form at the moment, isn't he? You struggle to think the last time he had a real proper good performance. I thought he was probably Rangers' most attacking and most threatening player at the weekend against Livingston. There wasn't a lot of players to choose from, to be honest, but listen, I would like to see it happening, at least see it happen at some point. You've got to think that the manager sees the players in training, and you'd like to think that maybe they've tried that out. I think it could work, but whether we see that is an entirely different thing. And Sean Maxwell says Ryan Kent has been shocking this season. Yeah, you're not far wrong, Sean. He's not had a good season whatsoever. And Nigel says Kent needs dropped. Totally agree. But who do you play in there? I think Yilmaz is a good shout. That aside, Matondo, who of course is I was going to say is both hot and cold, but it's more cold than anything else at the moment. You play him on the left-hand side where he played for much of last season when he was in Belgium. Cricket says I'd play right, Sakala and Matondo in Kent's position. Yeah, listen, there's players there that should be champing on the door, especially with Kent in this form that he's in at the moment. I thought he started off well. He skipped past a player, I'm not too sure who it was, in Domboli or someone can correct me. But then after that, it's the Ryan Kent that we've seen all too often this season, failing to beat his man, choosing the wrong option at times. And generally, just he looks a shadow of the player we all know he can be. This is a good shout. RFC 72 says Lowry. Get Lowry back, get him on the left-hand side. Well, of course, he's back in the B team now, which is a good sign. So I'm sure they won't be trying to rush him back, given what happened to him at Dumbarton. But he's a player, I think, that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will be keen to get back in the senior setup. And I think all the fans are excited to see Alex back in the team as well. It's been a real blow not having him available for any of the season so far, hasn't it? It's not been good. Let's get to a few more before we wrap up, folks. Got to say, in terms of the atmosphere tonight, I think it was just over 39,000 in the stadium. It holds 54,000 to either end of the pitch behind the goals. The two Napoli ultra sections were making plenty of noise. And when the Rangers players came out, the whistles that we're getting was quite something. But in terms of intimidating atmosphere, easy for me to say. I walked through from my apartment outside the ground into the stadium earlier on, and it was a good bustling atmosphere. Of course, no Rangers fans at the game, which was very unfortunate. But it was a small handful, I'm sure, that managed to get into the ground. But in terms of the atmosphere, it was pretty decent, and I'd really recommend if you can get over to Italy to take a game in, because they love their football over here, right passionate, the Italians. Alan Kelly says Lawrence is a big miss. No doubt about it, Alan. He's the quicker Rangers can get him back, the better. But How soon that'll be, who knows? Sean says, I took my talk out in the first half because we were rotten. It threatened to unravel. I think after 16 minutes, you're thinking the worst, aren't you? You're thinking it could get really ugly here. Napoli looked in the mood. The blew Rangers away in that the opening. Well, certainly the first half of the first half. Rangers weathered the storm, and like Ross says, we were lucky that Napoli took their foot off the gas. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we'll take the 3-0 defeat, head back to Glasgow and move on. Of course, it does keep alive Rangers' European ambitions. They need to just beat Ajax by 5-0. So it's there for them. Ajax, of course, losing tonight to Liverpool in Amsterdam. So, listen, one game left. It's been an ultimately miserable Champions League campaign in the main, hasn't it? After that brilliant night in Eindhoven, everyone was optimistic, and then the draw was made, and we're all looking forward to it. But unfortunately, Rangers have just been found wanting. It's just the gulf is just too much. Let's see, Jamie says here, do we think Napoli have kept Gio in his job? On another night, that could have been 5, 6 or 7. Interesting one. Listen, he's under pressure. He needs to win at the weekend, I think. Aberdeen is huge. He has to get back to winning ways. I don't think he can afford to fall any more points behind Celtic. In the way Celtic are playing, I think they've went through their sticky patch and they're starting to beat teams convincingly again. So Rangers need to keep up the pace at the moment and not fall further behind. But it's going to be difficult. We know Aberdeen. It's always a cup final when they play against Rangers, so it's not going to be easy. But the style of football, the intensity, the tempo, and the form of the players has to improve. It just has to if they're going to get back into this title race. And listen, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will know that he needs to get results. At the moment, the style of football is not attractive. It's not easy on the eye. Supporters are leaving, and they're not enjoying it. So it's on the manager. He has to pick a team for Saturday that goes out there and does the job, I think, first of all, but put on a show, put on a show to the fans that are coming along to pay their money and watch their team in action. Bob Dublin says it needs to start with a defensive makeover. Well, listen, they're down to the bare bones in defence, aren't they? The manager was asked about Leon King because, of course, he went into that crunching challenge. Got to say, you love those full-blooded challenges, and he did well, Leon. He came off better off, but then he went off just shortly after, didn't he? But he said that it was due to cramp. He has played a lot of games. He says he's only 18 years of age. So it's understandable. It's nothing to do with the robust challenge that he flew into just shortly before he got taken off. Defensively, listen, there's no other options. You played James Sands at the back there. He moved back in the second half at times to form a back five, didn't you? But I think Davis and King are the defensive duo for the time being anyway. I think the big question is it Borna or Yilmaz now after that tonight? And Tavernier, of course, we know that he's just going to carry on playing. The rumours that he's carrying an injury won't go away. But do you throw in Adam Devine? I don't think you do at this point in time. Let's get to a couple more comments before we call it a day, folks. We'll be back tomorrow, incidentally. Myself, I think Joshua and Johnny will be on to properly analyse the match tonight and go through it in further detail. But let's try and get to a few more before we call time. Positive Vibe says King has a bright future, but he shouldn't be playing every game. I think it's just purely by default, it's down to necessity at the moment. I think that he's playing. It's unfortunate, of course, that Connor Goldson's out for the foreseeable. So it's going to be a King Davis partnership in Touchwood. Neither of them pick up an injury as well, or else Rangers really are up against it. And we're not going to see John Suter and Phil Hollander back anytime soon either. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with those two. But it will be Davis and King. I'm sure that will line up against Aberdeen at the weekend. And Richard F says Yilmaz was a bright light tonight. Yeah, got to agree, Richard. One of very few, you could say, in terms of pass marks and players that did pretty well. Again, John Lundstrom, he's another one that he said himself in a podcast, didn't he, that he's carrying an ankle knock. The manager said he went for scans, and he's fine, but he's another one that, like many others that are out of form, struggling for form at the moment. So, but again, in midfield, who do you play? Scott Arfield and Stephen Davis have been going to the well too often. Also, the squad players. Do you throw Charlie McCann in there? James Sands, of course, played midfield tonight. Will he play in midfield again at the weekend? Who knows? And this is an interesting one. I think we touched on this just at the start as well, with regards to the 4K. Napoli running 4K more. What has happened to their fitness this season? Way off the mark from last year. They certainly look leggy, the Rangers players. I don't know whether that's to do with the training, whether it's a hangover from last season, the amount of games that they played. Who knows? But certainly it's a fair concern that supporters have just now. Okay, that'll do us there, folks. So just a shout out to the youngsters who beat Napoli earlier on today. Cracking result for David McCallum's men. So fantastic stuff. Zach Lovelace with a double. So great effort from the young lads doing the double over Napoli in the UEFA Youth League, but unfortunately the senior side couldn't do likewise here tonight in Naples. We'll be back, as I mentioned, tomorrow. We'll talk about the game in greater detail. But until then, enjoy the rest